And we're back with Dr. Scott Morris and Reverend Stacy Smith, co-authors of 40 Days to Better Living, Optimal Health. And we're actually just talking in the series, this one's Optimal Health, but you have all these other topics that you're going to be discussing, depression and hypertension. Which we'll get to in a minute. But first, let's start with 40 Days to Optimal Health. How does somebody get started? What's the first day?
It's the hardest day. I know that much.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's the day when you decide today I'm going to pay attention.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm going to take track of what I'm eating. Maybe I'm not going to change everything about my diet on day one, but I'm going to notice what I'm eating. Okay. I'm going to pick up a pedometer that you wear on your waist that tracks the number of steps that you take, and I'm going to find out how far am I walking so that I know what I'm doing so I can do a little bit more the next day. It's about picking up a journal, just having it so that you can, write down your thoughts, things that are in your way, things that are making it more difficult. And it's about telling someone, telling a friend, telling a family member, I'm thinking about doing this. I really need your support.
Now, a moment ago, we were talking about eating in a community, like with your church, and in making health decisions, when you start to, say, I'm going to start eating healthier, maybe I'm going to start eating more raw foods, is it easier to kind of go alone? Because it seems like it would be, well, if I can just go home and make myself a salad or whatever, then if I'm going to be eating with family or friends or with the church, then I'm going to have to eat all this, quote-unquote junk food.
I would say any plan to go it alone is a recipe for failure. And when it comes to eating...
Sell it to me.
Well, and when it comes to eating, eat the way Jesus ate.
Okay.
Jesus never ate alone. Jesus always ate with a group. I guarantee you Jesus would never have gone through a fast food drive-through and ordered whatever he wanted and
But he was popular. Everybody wanted to eat with Jesus.
Well, but Jesus also had the ability to withdraw from a crowd.
Yeah.
And he had the ability to do that. But just like I don't believe that you can be faithful by yourself. Back in the 4th century, the Desert Fathers went out and for 10, 20, 30, 40 years tried to live the faithful life by themselves. When they came back, almost without exception, do you know what they said? They said that was a total waste of time. I didn't feel closer to God out in the desert by myself. I felt alone. I missed my family. I missed my church. I missed those things that brought me closer to God. The same thing's true about being healthy and about eating. We need to find ways to eat in community, and we've forgotten how to do that in America.
So how do you combat that potluck then, that fruit punch and apple pie?
We have to think theologically about it, I think. We have to
Theologically?
I think so. I mean, I think we have to say, what does God want me to bring to the potluck?
Okay.
Am I going to bring something that is going to feed the souls of everyone gathered here, or am I going to bring something that's just kind of filling?
Okay.
Well, Stacy, that's a good point, because sometimes when I'm saying grace over my food, and while I used to, a certain burger joint I used to frequent quite often, and I would say,
what was it, Valerie?
Steak and Shake. I love their burgers. Lord, bless this food, make it nourishment for my... I couldn't even complete the sentence.
Because you knew it didn't match up.
I know it didn't match up. So you're right.
And to that point, if at your church night supper, if you have to have fried chicken in order to draw a crowd, there's something wrong with your message. God gave us
this seems more for pastors, though, than for a congregant.
Well, actually, it is important for pastors because in the midst of the obesity epidemic in America, clergy are 20% heavier than the rest of the population. And you cannot have a healthy church if you do not have healthy clergy. I mean, the best way to change the way a congregation eats is to get the pastor to say, I don't want fried chicken.
Yeah.
I would rather, I'm okay with chicken, but I'd rather it be baked. If the pastor starts saying that,
now,
the congregation will change.
Let's just clarify. Someone who may have health issues isn't necessarily unspiritual, though. We're not saying that.
No, we're not saying that at all. But I am saying that these two things go hand in glove.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Okay, so we were talking before the break about hypertension. That was you said you were going to do 12 topics during the course of the year, and you've already done hypertension. I guess depression is coming up. But speaking of hypertension, I know that African Americans suffer from an extremely high rate of hypertension. What do you credit that to?
I mean, truthfully, we don't know, but it is the reality of it is that African Americans, and especially African American men, are at dramatically greater risk than any one of the all four of us. of having high blood pressure, which leads to having strokes, having heart attacks. And this is an issue for the African American church.
That's right.
And the African American church means women. Women in the African American church need to step up and say, we care about our men, and number one, they hate going to the doctor. So find some way.
True.
I don't like going to the doctor either. But
I was going to say that's everybody.
Everybody does. But African American men will not go to the doctor, and then they don't like to take any pills. But the number one treatment for hypertension is exercise and nutrition. And for some reason, African American men are extremely sensitive to salt. It doesn't matter that much if you're Caucasian, but it matters a whole lot if you're African American, so that you've got to start with getting rid of the salt shaker. I know it's hard to do, but it does matter.
And what's a good replacement? Is sea salt okay, or do you need to get rid of the salt altogether?
I mean, you can use no salt or light salt, which is a potassium-based rather than sodium-based. It doesn't taste exactly the same, but you can use pepper, you can use other spices.
Other seasonings.
The issue is the sodium.
One of the tips in the book is actually to switch your salt and pepper shakers. A pepper shaker usually has less holes on the top than a salt shaker, and so you swap those out so that you've got more pepper coming out than salt.
There
you
go.
One of the tips that we use at the Wellness Kitchen at the church.
Now, obviously, being a doctor, it's somewhat of a serious role, but how important is that people just laugh and have fun with their life as far as their total body and health and wellness?
I mean, the Bible talks about Jesus wept. Okay, that means it doesn't talk about Jesus laughed, because I think it means Jesus laughed all the time. Jesus liked a good party. Jesus was always doing things that would bring about laughter. I mean, what I ultimately think, all of this is about achieving what I would consider the goals for living. More joy, more love, and being driven closer to God. If those things aren't happening, then what's the point? And who cares if you live 2 years longer, if it means 2 years longer in a nursing home? Life for life's sake doesn't make any sense. Breathing in, breathing out. I'm not signing up for that. I don't think you are either.
And you have to just shoot these folks straight who are watching the show. There is at some point some sort of sacrifice at being healthy. It's just like being a Christian. That in the end, you're going to be better, you're going to be happier, you're going to feel better. But in the beginning, there is some sort of sacrifice. It's not necessarily an easy road.
Well, it's different. It's different. And yes, change is hard. None of us do change very well. I don't do change very well. But in the end, what you're doing is trying to figure out living the faithful life. I mean, you might say the same thing about moving toward trying to be faithful to Jesus' sacrifice too. But in the end, it brings about joy, love.
Yeah.
I mean, why do people want to lose weight? Particularly women. I mean, they want to lose weight not necessarily because they look better. They want to lose weight because they'll have more energy. If they have more energy, they'll feel better. If they feel better, they'll be happier. That is the point, to be happier, to have more joy.
I lost 25 pounds and I am thrilled to death.
It led to that, right?
Yes, it did.
Right.
Well, one quick thing I wanted to hit on before we wrap up. You talk about work as well as this part of this lifestyle. So hit on that for a second.
Well, I mean, work, again, we see 7 different components to life.
Right.
Work's being one: nutrition, movement, family and friends, emotions, faith, medical care, that's one of them. But work is where I personally probably get out of balance. But of these 7 things, the goal is for them to be in balance.
Okay.
But God made us to work. That is what it says in the Bible. It's what I absolutely believe. It is where we sense a real calling to be connected to who God is. And if your work's not, and work doesn't mean going out and digging holes. It's whatever you're called to do. You can
maybe
be
you're
retired.
called to dig holes.
Well, I may be called to dig holes, absolutely. But you could be retired, and there's still an issue of work. Work is about your vocation. What you do to bring yourself closer to God on a daily basis. That's what work is.
Well, Doctor, thanks so much for joining us today. Dr. Scott Morris and Reverend Stacy Smith. The website is healthcareyoucanlivewith.com. The book is 40 Days to Better Living. You can find an easy link to their website through ours, harvest-tv.com. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more Harvest Show coming your way.